Welcome back, everyone, and good evening, Jane. Can you hear that? I mean, really hear it? The clanging, the chiseling, the shouting over the din, the constant, incessant noise of construction. Imagine standing at the base of something colossal, something ambitious, something almost defiant. That's what I picture when I think about Babel.
It's funny, Nash, because we often hear the story of Babel, and the immediate go-to is always the language punishment. God swooped in, scrambled their tongues, and that was that. But when you strip away that surface-level interpretation, there's so much more to it, isn't there? That noise you described, it wasn't just physical. It was the sound of 1,000 eyes, all trying to be the loudest.
Exactly. That's the core of it for me. It wasn't just about constructing a physical tower reaching into the heavens. It was about constructing a monument to human ego. A tower built on my glory, my name, my achievement, rather than our shared purpose or our collective good. And in that cacophony, what gets lost?
Silence, listening, humility. That brief silence you mentioned earlier, right before you asked if I could hear the noise, hear that? That's what God was waiting for. That line just resonates so deeply because it points to the profound absence in that entire endeavor. No one was listening to each other, let alone to anything beyond themselves.
Right. It's not just a story of divine intervention halting a project. It's a story of a project that was already doomed from the start because its very foundation was pride. You can't build true, lasting unity when everyone is broadcasting their own agenda, their own voice, their own I at maximum volume. It just becomes noise, confusion, shouting.
And honestly, when you put it that way, doesn't it sound incredibly familiar? I mean, look around us today. We're living in a world of digital Babel towers. Social media, for instance. It's a platform designed ostensibly for connection, but often it feels like a race to see who can build the highest me tower.
Oh, absolutely. The constant broadcast, right? Everyone is a broadcaster now. Look at me, look at what I'm doing, look at what I think, look at what I've achieved. And it's not inherently bad to share, but when it becomes the primary mode of interaction, when the transmit button is always on and the receive button is broken.
Then you've got billions of individual towers all screaming into the void, convinced they're being heard, but actually, they're just contributing to an overwhelming static. It's the ultimate pride confusion. We're more connected than ever, technically. But I think many people feel more isolated, more misunderstood than ever.
That's the real paradox, isn't it? We crave connection, community, a sense of belonging, but then we create these platforms that incentivize the exact opposite. Individual performance, curated perfection, the loudest opinions. It's a performative culture, and performance often lacks genuine vulnerability or the quiet space for real listening.
And the fame culture that's exploded with it is another facet of this. Everyone wants their 15 minutes, or maybe even 15 seconds, of viral fame. It's about my brand, my followers, my influence. Again, not necessarily evil, but when it consumes the why behind what you're doing, it becomes just another brick in the Babel tower.
It's a chase for external validation, isn't it? If your worth is determined by likes, shares, or comments, you're constantly looking outward, constantly adjusting your message to fit what you think the audience wants, rather than grounding yourself in something more substantial, something more communal.
And the God in the Babel story, to me, isn't just a literal deity. It's also that underlying truth, that universal principle, that higher calling, that we might connect to something larger than ourselves. When we're so consumed with building our own reputation, our own digital empire, we stop listening to that deeper wisdom, that quiet voice of conscience or true purpose.
That's a powerful point, Jane. It's like we're so busy designing the perfect broadcast signal, we've forgotten how to tune into any other frequency. We've become our own loudest echo chamber, reverberating our own thoughts, preferences, and desires back to ourselves, mistaking that for a rich dialogue.
It's isolating, honestly. You see people with thousands, even millions of followers, but they talk about feeling more alone than ever. Because true connection doesn't happen through a broadcast, it happens through reciprocity, through vulnerability, through the willingness to be changed by what you hear, not just to impose what you say.
Which brings us back to the core lesson. Unity without humility collapses. The people at Babel thought they were uniting, right? Come, let us build for ourselves a city and a tower so that we may make a name for ourselves. They envisioned this grand collective project, but the making a name for ourselves part reveals the fatal flaw.
Right, it wasn't let us build to serve, or let us build to learn, or let us build to connect with something greater. It was let us build to elevate ourselves. And when that's the motivation, the unity is always fragile, because it's based on a shared pride, not a shared purpose that transcends individual ego.
And eventually, when everyone is vying for the top spot, when everyone thinks their way is the only way, or their voice is the most important, the structure simply cannot hold. It starts to crack under the weight of its own internal competition. That's the real confusion God introduced, not just different languages, but the confusion born from self-importance.
Think about it in modern terms. A team at work, a community group, even a family. If everyone is just pushing their own agenda, their own desires, their own need for recognition, that group is going to struggle to achieve anything meaningful or to sustain itself. The bonds fray because there's no glue of mutual respect or shared sacrifice.
It's why empathy is so crucial. To truly listen to someone else, to really hear their perspective, you have to temporarily set aside your own. You have to assume that you don't have all the answers, that there's something to learn, something to understand beyond your own framework. That's humility in action.
Exactly. Humility isn't about self-deprecation or thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It's about recognizing that you are part of something bigger, that your voice is one note in a symphony, not the entire melody, and that symphony needs harmony, which requires listening to the other instruments.
So if we're living in these modern Babel towers, how do we start dismantling them, or at least, how do we learn to build differently? How do we introduce that brief silence back into our lives, into our conversations?
I think it starts small. It starts with intentionality. When you're in a conversation, actively try to listen more than you speak. Ask clarifying questions. Seek to understand, not just to respond. On social media, maybe take a moment before you post to ask, is this truly contributing, or am I just adding to the noise for my own ego?
That's a great filter question. Am I contributing, or am I just adding to the noise? And it applies beyond social media too. In discussions, in meetings, even within our own thoughts. Are we actually processing or just rehearsing our next argument?
And maybe, just maybe, intentionally stepping away from the constant broadcast, taking moments of quiet, of reflection, turning off the notifications, allowing for space where you're not consuming or producing, but just being. That's where you start hearing the things you've been missing.
I think there's a real beauty in the we when it's built on a foundation of genuine humility. A we that understands that collective strength comes from valuing each individual voice, not just the loudest one. A we that prioritizes understanding over being understood.
Absolutely. Because when we operate from a place of humility, we open ourselves up to growth, to collaboration, to true innovation. We realize we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. In fact, that's where the real magic happens, when diverse voices, united by a common, humble purpose, come together.
So, the next time you feel the urge to build your own personal tower, to shout your opinions from the rooftops, or even just feel overwhelmed by the digital noise around you, maybe take a moment, just a brief silence, and ask yourself, what is God or that higher truth waiting to hear from me or through me that isn't just my own pride?
It's a powerful reminder, Nash, that true strength, true connection, and true unity don't come from building the tallest tower of I, but from nurturing a garden of we where every voice has a place and every ear is open. Thanks for joining us today for this really insightful conversation.
My pleasure, Jane, and thank you all for listening. Until next time, let's try to listen a little more and shout a little less. Take care, everyone.